Welcome back to the channel everyone, this is Krypton HD, and today I want to bring a video regarding the survival guide for Nightmare Zone. As we all know, State of Decay 2 recently released the Juggernaut Edition, and this game actually gained quite some popularity following its release on Steam. So I'm pretty sure new players have experienced this, being on Standard Zone and probably died a lot of time but managed to defeat it. Maybe some new player managed to defeat Dread Zone already, but when you come to Standard Zone, it's a different challenge. That's a sure thing. So I just want to bring that into attention for new player. I just want to give a few tips based on my personal experience on how I've come to defeat Nightmare Zone, definitely. So why do I prefer playing on Nightmare Zone? To me, I believe Nightmare Zone is the only way to experience the game to its full and maximum potential. And I believe that everyone should definitely have a try on Nightmare Zone when they are ready. Because even on Standard Zone, I've lost quite some communities, but on Nightmare Zone, I believe it took me about 6 or 7 communities to actually start surviving. Because I was always getting wiped, like from the start of the game, I wasn't even surviving 2 days. So those are the things that I learned from playing Nightmare Zone, and I just want to share it, definitely. So before we go into more details, if you guys enjoyed this video and want to see more of this type of content, you can hit that like button, definitely. And if this video is very relevant to you, you can also consider subscribing to this channel for more video of the same kind. So now let's go into more detail. So the tips that I'm going to be giving you are based on my personal experience and what I've learned from. So the first thing that I want to mention, which I find is the most important when you go into Nightmare Zone, is to always have a mechanic. If you have an auto mechanic, that will even be greater, but always make sure that you have someone that has the skills of mechanic. And the point that I want to make is have a set of skills for your starting community. As you know, when you start a new community, you always have 3 members in that community. So all of them have four sets of skills that are similar, which are cardio, wits, fighting, and shooting. And then they have a 5th skill, which usually helps in the community. So usually I like to combine specific skills. So first one is auto mechanic. For all your community, always make sure that you have an auto mechanic. And that's for very specific reason, because they will provide you with the ability to craft repair kits, which are going to be useful to repair your cars eventually, your cars or vehicles. And let's go into the skill combination. The skills I love to combine in my personal experience is utilities and gardening skills. So the reason why I always combine these two when I start a new community is because on Nightmare Zone, survival eat a lot more food than on Standard or Dread. In Nightmare Zone, they eat 1.5 unit of food per survivor. And that's just if they don't have any trade that actually increase that. But the standard is they eat 1.5 unit of food per day per survivor. So if you start with a community member of 3 people, then from the start already, you're making minus 4.5 units of food per day. And I think you only start with 6. So as soon as you start your community, you have to go out to look for food. So food is definitely an element that is very important on Nightmare Zone. So the reason why then I combine utility and gardening is because utilities and gardening will provide you with the ability to build hydroponic. And hydroponic actually really help a lot when it comes to producing food in your community. So these are 2 skills that I really love to put all together when I start a new community. I also have a second preference, which is medicine and chemistry. Medicine for very obvious reason, because you need to heal from your injuries or your infections. And then chemistry, I usually like chemistry because later on I can specialize the chemistry skill into pharmacology, and this will help you craft strong painkiller in your community. And also, when you pick your survival, also make sure that you pay attention to the traits, because some trait can affect your skills. So make sure that you pick survivors that don't have negative traits, because otherwise they're going to be annoying community members and then your morale is going to be low. I mentioned previously that a mechanic was very important, and it's going to link to the second point right now, which is about cars. So cars, for very obvious reason, you always need to have a car, because a car will help you travel long distances. I remember when I first started playing the game, I was traveling by foot all the time, and no wonder I lost my community so many times, even on Standard Zone. That's what I was doing. But I later learned that car is definitely very important. So you always need to have a car. And in case your car breaks down, then your mechanic skill can help you build a repair kit, which you can use to repair your car. Yeah, so all cards have different storage capacity. So just pay attention to it and always make sure that you have a card that can actually store a lot of items. Usually I would go for anything that is 6 and above. Those cards could be a Brogan Tracker, for example, or a Van. Those are usually very helpful when it comes to looting, and go for supply run. Okay, and then the next part, eventually if you have a car, it would allow you to travel longer distances, which means that you're going to have to do a lot of looting when you start the game. So make sure that you travel far enough to find more loot, to build basic facilities in your home base. So definitely always make sure that you prioritize looting at the beginning of the game. Because why am I saying looting? Because at the beginning of the game, not all enemies have spawned. So it's relatively still calm. But after day 1, I think then all the other enemies start appearing on the map, and then it gets a lot harder to get to other locations. So always make sure that you prioritize looting when you start your community. Also, now this brings me to the other point. Everything that you have learned in Standard Zone and Dread Zone is becoming irrelevant. Please do change your playstyle. Because in Standard Zone, you could still go guns blazing. Relatively, you could also do that in Dread Zone. I'm saying relatively. But then in Nightmare Zone, this becomes really impossible to go guns blazing, because zombies are more attracted to sound, and they can hear the sound at greater distances. So even if you feel like you're alone, you can just go guns blazing, and then you'll see like hordes are just going to arrive and arrive and arrive. That's very challenging on Nightmare Zone. So you don't want to get overwhelmed with all the zombies that are going to spawn when you go guns blazing. So always prioritize the stealth mode. Always make sure that you use the execution on zombies instead of trying to actually fight them. Pick your fights all the time. If the stealthy option does not work, then you can start fighting. But always reconsider your situation. Do you have enough stamina to continue that fight? If you don't have, just make sure that you try to escape the Z. So usually in stealth mode, I usually prefer to go with the crossbow. That is for obvious reason, because the crossbow never breaks. And then the balls that you fire can be recovered as well, and they are completely silent. So enemies will never hear you when you use that. Guns. On the other hand, guns are actually very effective against zombie, but the problem is that eventually they make noise. Even with the suppressor on, they still make some noise. And as I mentioned, zombies are very sensitive to the noise, and some of them can actually roll to attract more zombies. So in Nightmare Zone, you can easily get overwhelmed by the entire horde of zombies. So guns are very effective, but use them as a last resort. If you feel like your back is against the wall and you can't do anything else, then use a gun. But apart from that, please don't. Just go for the stealthy option. All right, and I just want to mention the last 2 tips that I also learned. Avoid human hostiles. And the reason why I say avoid human hostile, it's not going to be like in Standard Zone. Even on Standard Zone, you could get pretty much hurt a lot against human hostile. On Nightmare Zone, it's a suicidal mission. If you don't go there ready, then you will not come back. Definitely. Chances are high that you're going to lose that community member. So try your best to avoid human hostile. Sometimes I would go there, even being well equipped, and I lost countless community members. Some of them were part of my favorites. One of them was actually my number 1, even before I started recording State of Decay 2 gameplay. One of them was my number 1, and I lost her against human hostile. So they can take you out pretty easily and pretty quickly. It only takes 1 headshot and you're done for sure. So try to avoid that. And then the last part that I want to mention is eventually Plague Hearts. I mean, Plague Hearts are the main mission of the game, if I can put it that way. To liberate your town, you need to liberate it from the plague disease. So Plague Hearts, when you go out to take Plague Hearts, when you start a new community, you'll notice that you don't even have enough equipment. After building your workshop, you'll be able to build explosive. Always go out to take out a Plague Heart with explosive. Never try to go with a melee weapon. Never try to go with a ranged weapon. Always use explosive. You have a wide range of explosive that you can actually craft in your workshop, so always make sure that you use that when you go to take out a Plague Heart. You will see that if you throw a few explosives, the Plague Heart will be taken out easily. The loot that you get out of the Plague Heart is actually really great. So you can get a rucksack, you can get higher grade weapon. It's really going to help your community. You can get stimulants, you can get strong painkillers, you also get stronger grenades. So After taking down each plague heart, your community is going to get stronger. That's a guarantee. Do not go out there trying to shoot a plague heart or trying to hit a plague heart. And each time you take on a plague heart, at 99%, a feral would always spawn. And you know how ferals are actually very difficult to take out in this game. Unless you really have the gunslinging skill, most of the time you'll struggle against a feral. So always make sure you have your explosives ready when you go and take out the plague heart. And yeah, so I believe these tips would definitely be helpful for new players. I hope you guys will find it very helpful, and if definitely it helped you or you feel like it's very relevant to you, I would really appreciate if you hit that like button. I would really love it. Drop a comment below regarding what I've mentioned. If you have other tips that could help new players to this game, then definitely drop it there in the comment below. It would definitely be helpful. And if you enjoyed this content and it was very relevant to you and you want to see more of this type of content, consider subscribing to this channel as well. And with that being said, guys, I love you all. I hope you guys learned something from this. I hope this is going to be very helpful. So enjoy and survive the Nightmare Zone, definitely. Cheers.